Hey guys, that's me just returned from my holiday in a small little studio cabin in the west coast of Scotland. And I couldn't resist bringing a miniature and a handful of some paints so I could kick back and do some outdoor painting. And I've got a little setup here with my wet palette and dry palette, so I should have everything I need to get started on my next project, which was a Horus Heresy Dark Angels hero which I printed off before travelling, which is a really badass model that reminds me of a cross between a Knights Templar and a Space Marine. I'm not exactly sure what model this is supposed to be a copy of, but nonetheless it's cool either way. And before I arrived, I primed the model in Colourforge Hyrax Brown before beginning the painting process, which first of all started with stippling on the Army Painter Teal Triad to all of the armour panels. And it was just a case of going from the darkest colour to the lightest colour and building up some basic highlights for the armour panels. And after a quick walk along the beach, it was then time to focus on all of the cloth on the model. Using the exact same stippling technique, working from the darkest colour to the lightest, using the Army Painter Warm Greys and Whites Triad. And after all the cloth had been finished, followed by a quick jaunt up the mountain which I'd been staring at for the past couple of days, it was then time to block out all of the rest of the colours. And that involved stippling in all of the leathers, using Citadel Mournfang Brown, followed by Baelor Brown, and then painting in all of the nice gold trim, firstly by using Army Painter Rough Iron, and then Army Painter Greedy Gold. And if you want a more detailed explanation of how I got to this point in the process, I'll leave a link to my previous Dark Angels video, which follows the exact same process. And the aim for while I was away was to block out all of the base colours on the model so that when I got back home I could add in all of the finishing touches along with the Grimdark washes. But before I got to the washes, I wanted to apply some decals or transfers, and I picked up this Gothic script transfer set, which I thought would add a really nice touch if added to all of the areas on the cloak. So I just carefully spent some time applying transfers to some of the areas I wanted them. Next it was time to apply the Grimdark washes. Firstly starting with an all-over coat of Villainy Inks Goon's Grime, and I applied this via airbrush over 2 or 3 thin coats. And then after allowing to dry for around 15 minutes, I just came in with a white spirit dampened makeup sponge to perform the cleanup process on all of the highlighted areas. And I just used the damp tip of the makeup sponge to lightly press on any of the areas I want to remove the wash, and then switch to the dry end and wick up any excess. And then once I was happy with that, I then just went in with some neat Goon's Grime and applied a few dots and patches of this across all of the cape, and then just used some white spirits to feather out any of the rough edges. And this just helps add a more dirty and grimy look to the material. And I did the exact same thing with Villainy Inks Carrion Crimson, this time being slightly more sparing with the application, with the idea being that this would act like a little bit of blood staining. And the final part of the process was to add some rust effects to the model. And to do that, I firstly applied some Villainy Inks Sector Rust to some random areas across the armour. And this gives a really nice crusty orange rust effect to these areas. I'll then apply some dirty down rust to some of the same areas and some different areas, and this provides a little bit of variation to the rust effects, as this is a much more oily brown rust. And after that was done, the model is now complete and ready to be dipped in some kraut cover for the basing. And as always, I hope you enjoyed and found this video useful. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as I can. And next up, I think I'm going to be tackling the Eldar Forge World Cobra Heavy Grav Tank. I have a few interesting ideas of what I'd like to do with it, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on that video, and I'll catch you in the next one.